Ladies and gentlemen, we are back with another edition of the MMATakeover.com interview of the week. Today's guest is one of the biggest talents and biggest stars in the entire CES MMA organization. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a fighter that has a 20-7 record with an 8-4 record in CES. He has fought in Bellator and was a contestant in The Ultimate Fighter. Ladies and gentlemen, our guest is Greg Rebello. Greg, how are you?
Good, man. How's everything going with you, man?
I'm great. Thanks for asking. We appreciate you coming on. We're gonna get right to the cheesy question we always ask everybody, just in case there's anybody at home who doesn't know who you are. Tell us how you got into MMA.
Well, I played hockey my whole life. That was like pretty much the only sport I played growing up. And I don't know. I played in like the Eastern Junior Hockey League until I was like 20, 21 years old, and that's pretty much the last year I could play. So I kind of was just looking for something else to do, you know what I mean? Some other kind of workout to do. I was sick of not one of those guys that just goes to the gym to lift weights to get jacked, and, I was kind of just bored with that. So, I just, I always did love fighting, so I just, I started, I'd been taking karate and stuff like that, and, I just started taking MMA classes, and I just kind of fell in love with it, and my coach kind of was like, I guess back then he thought I was good, but he kind of threw me into a fight really quick, so I fought with probably 6 months of training. And in 2005 in Boston at the Club Avalon, which is shut down now on Lansdowne Street.
Yeah, of course.
And I fought in mass destruction. I mean, 2005, a long time ago, and I've pretty much been hooked ever since then.
Yeah. Now, was you getting a lot of fights in hockey, and they were like, hey, you know what, maybe you should go in a different sport?
Well, yeah. I mean, when you play, like obviously I played in high school. I played at a really good high school on Cape Cod. And then I played in juniors. And juniors is the same rules as the NHL. Like, if I got into a fight in the first period, I sat in the box for 5 minutes, and I was back out there on the ice after. So
now, if you
I got my fair share.
if you do any like pickup hockey leagues, I'm sure no one's willing to throw hands with you anymore, right?
Yeah, no, it was kind of the pickup hockey's a little more laid back, a little more relaxed.
So now,
most of the guys got to go to work the next morning.
So now you transitioned to MMA. Were you a fan of MMA? Did you watch it on TV or like? You just said
yeah, absolutely, man. I think, in the mid-'90s when it first came out, I think everybody was kind of intrigued by it. Even back then, before the rules set in and the gloves and all that kind of stuff, you kind of had that, each guy had the specific one dimension that they were good at, you know what I mean? Whether it was wrestling or karate or jiu-jitsu. So it was very intriguing for me, you know what I mean? I'm like, wow, what guy's going to be able to impose his will and win? And so I was always interested in the sport. And, even in 2005, it was still new. There were still a lot of guys, even in the top level in the UFC, that were just really good at one thing, So, I definitely like that, you know what I mean? And as soon as I started training and, I never really expected to get into, be a pro and fight and have a career that's been this long and have this much fun and meet this many cool people with it. But, I fell into it and fell in love with it, and here we are.
So now you've been on the MMA scene for a very long time. It looks like you turned pro in 2004. I'm sorry, 2005. Said you started training about 2003, 2004. We're based in Rhode Island, so we're very familiar with the MMA scene in all of Southern New England. I actually remember the first time I saw you fight. It was in Plymouth. You fought an old training partner of mine, Todd Chattel, and you ended up winning that night. So I've seen a lot of your fights. That was the first time. That was like second or third fight in your career. My one question I always like to ask people who's been around, because there's been transitions in MMA. There was the old Gracie time, and then it came into the Randy Couture era, and then the Ultimate Fighter era, and then the Anderson Silva. Now we're in like a whole new transitional time. What changes have you seen in MMA from when you first started training till now? Like what changes have you seen in training?
It's crazy, man. That's a great question, because I feel like every 2 or 3 years something comes in. When I first started in 2005 to like about 2008, it was all these college wrestlers that were coming and just dominating.
Yeah.
I mean, that's when you can look at a lot of my fights from like 2007 to 2010. I won a lot by decision because I was wrestling guys so much.
Sure.
Even against Todd. Like against Todd, I would stand up and strike, let him think that I was going to stand up and bang with him, and then just take him down.
Yeah.
Because wrestlers were dominating back then, and the rounds were really short. Back then, the rounds were only 3 minutes, even though it was a pro fight.
Yeah.
So if I went to the clinch and I took Todd down, I hit him with a couple shots, and the 10-second bell goes off. You know what I mean?
Yeah, sure.
So it was just much easier for the wrestlers. I thought there was a lot of wrestlers in the like Nate Kitteridge, guys like that back then. They were dominating the local scene with their wrestling. And then guys got so good at takedown defense, it became more the striking, the Muay Thai and the boxing.
Sure.
and obviously, guys catch up to that with good defense and have been nullifying that. And now you're seeing guys like, it started with the Machida era, and now you get guys like Wonder Boy
Yeah.
are coming up with these, crazy karate kicks and these
Sure.
wild stances. Conor McGregor, same way,
Yeah.
with footwork and distance and stuff like that. That's, that's starting to take over now. So I feel like every 2 or 3 years, something new comes up. And, obviously it's mixed martial arts, so you need to be good at everything. But I think it's these guys that have these special skills or this one thing that just separates them from everybody else. TJ Dillashaw with his footwork and his movement. Dominic Cruz, guys like that have
Cody
this
Garbrandt.
crazy movement that just throws other people off. Cody Garbrandt as well.
Yeah.
So I think it's just guys that are adding in these little tools
Sure.
that are just, getting them a step ahead of everybody else.
Now, how about in the training aspects? Like, I remember when I was training about the same time you were. I remember we used to spar every single day. We didn't wear headgear, and we just would go 100% balls to the walls, trying to knock each other's heads off. And it seems like I've heard in other interviews you talking about trying to train a lot smarter.
Yep.
Were you training the same way like I was, or did you have a better coach that kind of guided you?
I think that when I first started, I trained really stupid. I remember my first sparring session up at Sigatong was with Kenny Florian, Patrick Cote, Marcus Davis, and George Rivera. And these guys were all getting ready for fights in the UFC. And here I am.
Row right there.
I come in with like a couple of pro fights, 3-minute rounds. I had no clue what was going on. And I got 4-ounce gloves on. George Rivera's got no shin guards on, and he's bombing leg kicks and throwing elbows in my head. He put 15 staples down the back of my head. And, I remember driving home like, this, it doesn't really sound like the right way to train to me. And I did train like that for a while. You know what I mean? It definitely, I was always like a tough kid, so I didn't back down from it, But it's definitely, nowadays, it's obviously not what I tell the guys that I train to do, you know what I mean? I try to tell them to put on as much equipment as you possibly can. It's, I have this argument with guys all the time. You have to spar. If you don't spar and spar hard at least once a week during fight camp, you're going to go into a fight, and some other guy's going to be standing across from you trying to take your head off. And in the whole training camp, you want easy and you want light. And this guy's going to try, and it's just going to be a different animal. You're going to get, you know what I mean? In my opinion, you're going to get run over. During my fight camp, for a good 6 weeks, once a week I spar really hard.
Uh-huh.
And then most of my other sparring is a lot of drilling. You know what I mean? Stuff like that. Like tonight at Junico, we did we spar and we wrestle with the small gloves on. We wrestle hard and we grapple hard, but the strikes are really light. You know what I mean? We don't want anybody to get hurt. We don't want anybody to get cut. But in Sigatong or Triforce on Wednesdays, I put on as much padding as I possibly can, and we go at it. You know what I mean? I think that you have to do that. And, I try to do 4 or 5 rounds, get myself tired, and put myself in bad situations. And it just, that's the best way, in my opinion, to get ready. You can run as much as you want. You can lift as much weights as you want. But there's nothing like fight training, like sparring. You know what I mean?
You gotta get used to get punched in the face a little bit.
You have to, because you can look fantastic on the mitts and on bag work, and if somebody punches you in the mouth and you've never been hit before, you might not know how to react to it. You know what I mean? You might not like it. Sure. Most people don't like it. So
sure. Now you mentioned Sityo Tong, you mentioned Triforce. You're one of these guys. You're kind of one of these hybrids who trains everywhere. Tell us how you hooked up with these gyms.
Well, actually, so when I first started training, I was out of a karate gym, and then I got introduced to a family friend back home, to Loco Lobo, to Mike Gresh. So my first real MMA coach was Mike Gresh, Loco Lobo, down in Buzzards Bay. He lives right near my parents still. Okay. And I started training out of his basement. And he used to take me to train with Banana, Giuliano Catino, and a guy named Cacao. They were the jiu-jitsu guys on the Cape who started.
Sure.
So I used to do jiu-jitsu with them. And then Mike Gresh always went up to Mark Delagrati since 2002 or 2003.
Yeah. So
he took me up there pretty much in, I would say probably 2 or 3 months before my first fight, 2004, 2005. And, Mike, if it wasn't for Mike, Mike was the one who introduced me to Delagrati. And I actually met Pete and Keith Jeffries and Matt Santos and all those guys up at Mark Delagrati's gym because they used to come up and cross-train up there.
Okay.
So that's kind of how I met the Rhode Island guys. And when I moved to Providence, I ended up linking up with them and started. I coach at their gym, and I train there pretty much full time there in Seattle. So.
And you're jumping around just between Sityo
Tong. Yeah, well, so Daniel Gracie has Junico, and there's 2 gyms. There's one in Hyannis, Mass, and there's one in Hanover, Mass. And Mike Gresh is one of the head coaches up there. Giuliano, and then Tarzan, the kid from what? I'm drawing a blank right now.
Okay. I don't know.
Oh, what is his name, dude? I'll think of it later. But he's another coach up there. He fights in 1FC over in Asia.
Okay.
So they do classes on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and I get to cross. I bring up Cody and Joe Ping.
Okay.
And we get to cross train because it's just different looks for us. There's a lot of really good jiu-jitsu guys up there, and So we get to cross train with those guys. So it's just, I just try to get as many different looks as I can.
Sure. So now, one of the major changes you've also made over the years is it used to be light heavyweight. Now you're fighting at heavyweight.
Yep.
Why was the change? And I know it's something you've done a while back now, but why was the change, and what benefits have
Well,
come fighting at heavyweight?
and I've actually made 185 twice, and it was just I would starve myself for months and months and months. But my managers were like, "Oh, this is the right thing to do," and my fight was against the refrigerator. It wasn't, my training camps were terrible. Like, it was everything I was doing was in the refrigerator. That was my fight to get on the scale, and my training camps were awful. I would gas out in the first minute of the first round of every single fight. Yes, I was big and I was in great shape, and I was a lot bigger than a lot of the guys I fought, but it just didn't make any sense to me. And I remember my last fight at 205 was against Louis Rumsey, and it was the worst fight of my career for CES. And I had a horrible weight cut, and I was just exhausted. And I was, 30 years old. This is 4 years ago. Like I just couldn't. It was as you get older, it's obviously it's a lot easier to get bigger and a lot harder to get smaller as you get older. And
Sure.
I grew into a man's body and got the man's strength, and I went from walking around at 220, and now I walk around at like 240, 250.
Wow.
So I just couldn't do those weight cuts anymore. And my manager, Tyson Chartier, was like, "Listen, let's just try going to heavyweight. Just keep lifting and getting stronger, and let's just try heavyweight." And I did, and my first fight heavyweight was, it was literally like a coming out party. It was the best I'd ever felt. Like I just,
really,
I felt so strong. I could go 3 rounds at a high pace. And then obviously I was like, all right, well, if I'm going to do it heavyweight, I want to fight some really big guys. So all the guys I fought at heavyweight were a lot bigger than I am. You know what I mean? And I didn't really have any trouble in the strength department or anything like that. So that was like my only concern. But at heavyweight, I still eat clean and I eat good, but I'm just able to fuel myself up with a lot more food than I was when I'm trying to starve myself to do a weight cut, be this huge guy in the cage. So, I stopped worrying about that, and now my focus is all about training, you know what I mean? Because I don't have to worry about making weight.
Sure. I'm sure the dreaded weigh-ins aren't as bad now being at heavyweight.
Oh, are you kidding me? It's fantastic. Man.
I'm sure the rest of your team that has to make weight is not too happy with it.
Oh, my God. Are you kidding me? I used to follow Chuck O'Neal around the weigh-in room to make sure he didn't pass out in my arms. So.
Chuck O'Neal, another a former friend of our show. We're big fans of Chuck O'Neal.
Yes, dude. He was the biggest 170 I've probably ever seen in my life.
Now, you've been rolling since you've been at heavyweight. Your overall record, according to SureDog, is 20-7.
Yep.
Is there a fight on your record that you, or should I say, a loss on your record that really bothers you that you'd like to avenge?
Every one of them. I mean, I think anybody's crazy if a loss doesn't bother them. You know what I mean? It's
sure.
It's,
not one.
Especially, I train hard and we take it serious, so it's tough. It's hard to explain to people that hadn't fought because, like today, we're traveling an hour to go to Hanover and an hour back, and you do this for 8 weeks, and no matter what you do or how good a shape you're in, you have to show up for 15 minutes or 25 minutes if it's a title fight.
Sure.
So it's difficult, you know what I mean? And if you lose a fight, it's very tough, because you train for months and months at a time, and you take time away from your family and your friends. And if you go out there and you make a mistake or you don't, you don't pull the trigger in 15 minutes, that's it. It's just a waste of time,
Yeah.
So anytime that I've lost, it's been really tough. So, I would say all the losses I've had, one didn't really bother me more than the next. My last fight was pretty tough because I was dominating the whole fight and I was winning, and I made one stupid mistake and I got caught. But, when you fight guys that are at the next level and, good big heavyweights, that's kind of what happens, so.
Yeah, no, speaking of good big heavyweights, your next opponent that you're fighting on the January 27th live on Access TV in Lincoln, Rhode Island at Twin River is Danyelle Williams. What do you know about your opponent, and what weaknesses do you see that you can expose without obviously giving away your game plan?
Oh, yeah. Everybody knows my game plan. I'm going to go in there and look to stay on my feet and use my striking skills. But it's a good matchup. We're both lefties. He's a good heavy striker. He's got good kickboxing. He's pretty athletic. He's fought at heavyweight and at 205, kind of similar to me.
Yeah.
So I'm guessing we're probably around the same size. We have a very similar style. So I think I think everybody wins in this fight, especially the fans.
Now, you win. Obviously, you've been on this level for a long time. You've been very successful. With this win, do you expect to get a call from the UFC?
No, because I'm a realist, and I lost my last fight. I had won 4 or 5 in a row before that, but you need to be on a winning streak. You know, I think the thing that I have going on my side is I'm exciting, and and that's what people want to see. You know, nobody wants to see. Really, it's all about ratings, so nobody wants to see grappling, and you know they kind of get even if you watch it on TV. You know, everybody likes exciting fights, and it seems like the guys that are exciting are the ones that are getting the spotlight. You know what I mean?
Sure.
So I think that definitely goes on my side, being exciting. I'm not gonna say obviously I'd love to go to the UFC, but I would expect to get a call from Bellator before the UFC.
Okay.
You know, and they do shows locally a lot.
Sure.
You know, at the Mohegan Sun.
Yep.
And you know, I've talked to them quite a few times about fights, and you know, sometimes it just kind of didn't work out. But you know, that's something that I want to do. That's like, you know, that's my game plan. But obviously the UFC is number one. But
of course,
you know, I definitely would like to go to Bellator. You know, but right now I'm just focused on him getting this win, and
don't want to look past.
I want to stay. I want to stay busy, man. I want to get a few fights in before the summer, and then you know, we'll see what happens. Bellator comes around in April, so
I'm just looking at your record. You know, that win would put you at 21-7, which is an extremely impressive record.
Yeah.
And especially at heavyweights, not to, you know, I don't want to bash the heavyweight, but it is a weaker division, top to bottom in MMA, and the UFC is always looking to bring in top talent, especially from CS. It seems like CS is constantly getting more attention, pumping out more fighters. Now, let me ask this question. You've been in CS for a really long time. You've been on the Southern New England scene for a really long time. You've seen guys like Rob Font and Joey Gomez and all these guys coming in that you've had probably just as good a resume as these guys. Does it frustrate you to see these guys get brought in and you not get the call yet, or is it more of a motivation because you know how close you are?
Yeah, you know, I tell people this all the time too. Is like I'm never like a hater, man. I always get excited when a New England guy gets signed. You know, like. Sure. If I sell 100 tickets to a fight, 50% of those people go to see me lose. That's just the way that it is. That's the way the life goes. You know, people want to see you do good, but not better than them. Unfortunately, there's a lot of people like that. And some fighters will get mad and they hate on them, and you can see them rant on Twitter or something like that about it, but never. You know, I've been training with Rob Font. I remember walking into the gym and saw the kid throw his first jab. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And now he's the best fighter. He's the best fighter that Tom's ever seen. You know what I mean? He works really hard. He's really, you know, just mentally strong, and the kid's a monster, man. Just so to see him develop from literally some kid who walked off the street and did jiu-jitsu a little bit to turn into a guy who's arguably he's going to be in the top 10 by the end of this year, in my opinion, in 135 in the world.
Yeah, I think he's already ranked in the top 15.
He's going to be close. I mean, he lost the decision to Lineker. That's his only flaw in the UFC. You know, to see like guys like that and guys like Joey Gomez. I love Joey, man. I've been buddies with him. I always see him on the local scene, and his coach is a really nice guy, so I get excited when I see these guys sign. You know, Teki had signed for a little while, he got released, but it's awesome. Kyle Bachniak's another guy from CES.
Yeah, sure.
So, yeah, you know, I think I have a better resume than those guys probably. But you know what? A lot of it's timing, you know what I mean? And sometimes you just got to be in the right place at the right time. That's why I always stay ready, because you never know, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it seems like a lot of that's. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No. That's what I always tell a lot of these young guys, man. You constantly got to train.
And you got to be ready.
All these guys underneath me, I tell them they always train, because if they don't, they're gonna miss an opportunity.
You always be ready. It seems like a lot of these guys, being that they get the call when someone gets injured. Like we just had a Devin Powell from
100%.
New England. He got the call. So you always got to be ready, and there's always guys dropping down, and obviously you got to jump at that golden opportunity. No.
Yeah, I mean, how many times do you on social media and the UFC posts about somebody getting injured?
Yeah,
it happens almost every week.
I mean, Andre last week was trying to get a fight with Jimmy Rivera. I mean, that's the thing to do. Put your name out there, and if it doesn't get you a fight with Jimmy Rivera, it got enough.
100%.
It got enough retweets to get your Sean Shelby and Dana White and these guys to see your name and say, oh, well, let me check this guy out. Oh, he's the CS champion. He's on a roll. You know, maybe, all right, we're not going to put him with Jimmy Rivera, top 10 guy, but hey, you know, so-and-so got hurt. We need another 135 or boom. All of a sudden,
of course, and the great thing is CES is they were ranked top 8 in the world, according to SureDog last year, top 8 shows in the world. They were ranked number 8. And because of that, like, you know, CES and RFA and LFA and Legacy combined, it's called the LFA now. These shows on Access TV are the biggest feeders to the UFC and to Bellator. So, you know, when the UFC has somebody hurt, I feel like these are the two promotions that they constantly look to get talent.
All right, so the next thing I just want to translate, because one thing known about you is obviously you're a fighter, but you're also a coach. So one thing I know you just mentioned earlier off the air that you're riding with Cody Norbury. We just had him on for an interview, a great interview. Tell us just a little bit of time that Cody's been with you. What improvements have you seen?
Well, you know, Cody was always a great wrestler. You know, but the thing with him, you know, because I actually reached out to him because Rob Font was fighting Ian Entwistle. and that that fight actually got scratched. But Ian is kind of similar to Cody. He's a wrestler. He's got good leg locks, and he's a short, small, tiny guy. And so I reached out to Cody, I was going to bring him to Seattle to help Rob out. But then after we saw him train, I'm like, we could really help you out, because there's a lot of things that I see that, not that you're doing wrong, there's just a lot of things that you're not doing at all, because I think you're so green you don't really know. You know what I mean? And
sure.
The biggest thing with him is he couldn't mix it together. He was either just striking or just wrestling.
Sure.
You know what I mean? So he'd go out there and he'd throw punches, and then when he wanted to wrestle, he went into his little wrestling stance, and then he would just shoot on guys. So people could see it coming a mile away. Now, the biggest thing that I work on with him is mixing them both together and trying to get fluid with that.
Yeah.
And that's the biggest improvement that he's made. Obviously, he's been grappling a lot more at Triforce with Pete Jeffries, and there's a ton of training partners over there for him. So his grappling's gotten a lot better. But it's just the fluidity of his striking. Is putting it all together, the striking and the wrestling. That's going to be the biggest improvement you're going to see in this next fight. I didn't have a lot of time, me, Pete, and Mark, to work with him in his last fight, but he still showed a lot of improvements.
Yeah.
Between mixing that up, and it's going to be a whole nother level in this fight.
So we talked to Cody last week. He kind of had, he talked about his goals. He talked about going down to 125. He still said, obviously, he gets a offer to fight Andre Sukmatai. He's going to take that fight. And he kind of flamed up a beef again. Andre, we talked to him earlier this week, which is getting released. He kind of flamed up the beef a little bit more. I saw a little beef going on Twitter. I don't want to throw any more fire on that. There's no need to do that.
Trust me, to tell me, I'm the one who always throws the fire.
I know. You're a little. You're.
Well, Andre's been one of my closest friends. A lot of people on Twitter don't realize that. I talk to Andre every day. He's like one of my closest friends. I talked to him today. I talked to him yesterday, the day before. So I like to just be a smart ass.
Yeah, I was one of the ones who I didn't realize that you guys were friends. I thought there was some kind of beef with him leaving Triforce. I was getting to that question, then he kept mentioning how close your friends were, and I was like, oh man, I thought we had a TJ Dillashaw, Cody Garbrandt type beef.
Yeah, everybody.
And I was pushing it. I was poking it. I was poking it. I was trying to get
everybody it. Always thinks that. You know what I mean? I've been friends with Andre since he was a teenager, and when I remember my third fight, my first title fight, actually, right after I fought, so I was telling Andre was walking out in the corner with me. You know what I mean? He was like a 17-year-old kid.
Sure.
So I've been friends with Andre and his wife for a long, long time. I just went to his wedding, and I've been friends with Andre for a long, long time.
So I don't want to push their beef anymore. They don't need.
I don't care.
But I'm saying they don't need to be pushed, because they can promote it pretty well by themselves. They don't do a good job. One thing I want to ask you about just the whole beef in general. You've been in the sport a long time. Have you ever had a beef like that with anybody?
Not really, man. I've never really been much of a crap talker. I just like to fight. And
So let's get that started. Well, let's have some fun. Let's get that started. Say something about something about negative about your opponent. Let's get a beef going.
I gotta do it.
We gotta get views. We gotta get views.
Yeah. I know. I don't even know how to start a beef with him. I don't know anything about the guy. He's probably the nicest guy on the planet. I don't even know. I don't think so. I mean, there's probably been maybe a little animosity. I think that the one time there might have been a little animosity, but it really wasn't that big of a deal. Is I fought Eric Brown twice.
Okay.
And I've only been stopped 2 times in almost 30 fights, and he stopped me in my second fight. He caught me right off the bat.
Sure.
And I fought him again 3 years later, almost to the day, for my title. I had the 205 title for reality fighting, and I fought him again and beat him in the first round. So we didn't hate each other or anything, but
a little bit of rivalry.
A little bit of a rivalry, I would say. Yeah, it was just us being competitive and stuff like that. But I've had a lot of stuff like that where it's kind of like gym battles. We're going against that gym. We always have good fights first time, so I want to win. You know what I mean?
Sure.
But I wouldn't say I've ever hated anybody. Hate's a pretty strong word. So yeah, I don't.
So now you're obviously, we mentioned you're coaching Cody. Who else are you coaching?
I've coached Cody, Brennan Ward, Louis Felix, Nate Andrews, Gary Boletto Jr.
Yeah, Nate's a guy I've been watching. He's from my same hometown. Actually, I've known him since elementary school. So I've always pulled for Nate.
Beast, man. And he's trust me when I tell you, he's right on the line of getting that UFC call. You know what I mean? It's
sure.
It's getting pretty it's getting pretty close. So he's the guy that I'm really excited about, man, in the future. But yeah, I've worked with Nate, his striking and stuff. Vic Fagnant, the boxing coach, does his boxing, and I help Nate out a lot with his kickboxing. And again, he travels with us to Junico and to Seattle and to all those places as well. So yeah, I coach a lot of these guys, and obviously Mark Del Gradi. After my fight's over, I always go right back up to Seatong. I bring these guys up, and I help coach, all my teammates that help me out. You know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
See, a lot of these guys take time out to come give me sparring and to help me out. So I return the favor every time. I hate guys that, I won't mention any names. So there's a lot of guys that
no, please do.
Have a fight.
No, please do mention names.
See now, you're trying to get me to talk.
I'm trying to get you to talk. So what is your beef with Luis Felix?
Me?
Yeah,
I just like to. I love Lewis. Lewis is one of my closest buddies, but I just like to get on his case.
No, I was just throwing a name out there, trying to get you to beef with somebody.
Oh no! Well, I always make fun of Lewis on Twitter too.
I used to wrestle with Lewis, so I like Lewis.
No, Lewis is. I love Lewis, man. Me and Lewis are really good buddies, and we have been for a long time. And I just give Lewis crap all the time because he's lazy. He's the type of guy who tends to take a little bit of time off between fights. So let's just say that. So I kind of got to get on his case. So he's actually the wrestling coach at Johnson, or assistant wrestling coach at Johnson and Wales right now
with Lonnie Morris.
So he's keeping himself busy. So I'm happy for him.
So what do you prefer? Do you like fighting more? Do you like coaching more? Is there a preference?
I like fighting. Yeah, I don't know. It's tough. Right now, I like fighting.
Okay.
But that's a tough question. It's hard for me to really answer that.
Kind of just
because
enjoy both.
I do enjoy both, but it's tough now because I'm fighting next Friday, and so isn't Cody. So I haven't exactly been able to coach him as much as I want to, but I still drag his little ass to all these training sessions.
Yeah.
Make sure he gets the good work in. And like last night, I had my last sparring session on Monday with Mike Rodriguez, who is also fighting on CES.
Okay.
And I didn't spar last night, so I got to coach him and watch him last night, and so I haven't gotten to coach him as much as I want. But that's why I always try to take one CES off, and I get a lot of the guys that I work with to fight on that one so I can coach them for 6 to 8 weeks. But, yeah, I love coaching. I've had a good time doing it. Like, I coached Brendan Ward when he won the Bellator tournament, so we get to travel the country. He's fighting this Saturday on Spike TV. He's fighting Paul Daly.
Co-main event.
Exactly, yeah, co-main event. So it's one of the biggest Bellator cards, maybe the biggest card ever, And so yeah, it's been pretty cool, man, to get to travel the country and meet all these guys and different fighters with him. And now, it's sweet because I get to coach a lot of these guys that I've built up, Cody and Marquise, a lot of the small guys.
Marquise, he's a guy flying on the radar. That's another guy I used to wrestle with. He was a state champion wrestler.
State champ wrestler, good striker, tough kid, and it's when we keep him in the gym and keep him busy, man, that kid's he's really talented, and he's another one that could go to 125 as well. We have a good group of small guys right now.
Man.
And but like I said, it's cool because I get to push all these guys through CES, even if they start on the undercard, and then get them to the main card, get them on TV, and then try to push these guys to Bellator to the UFC, like what happened with Brendan Ward.
So no, let me ask this: because you decide to hang it up, you're all done. Is it going to be 100% coaching, or is the media where you're going to go? Because you're better at this talking thing than I am. I mean, are you going to start doing the media route?
Actually, a lot of the guys on Access TV have said that as well too. I've always done that. Like I always go on podcasts, and I've done a lot of the podcasts on with Jason Floyd.
Yeah,
and I've done a lot of the shows with Jay Lynch. Yeah, so I get a chance to do all this stuff, and I love doing that. So I'm definitely, fighting will be replaced with that. You know what I mean? I'm still going to be a coach, 100%. But I'm always going to do the media, and I like doing commentating and stuff like that. But yeah, definitely coaching. I want to help these young guys, get pushed to the next level. People don't realize how spoiled we are, man. We got CES right in our backyard. Most people look at it as a local show, but it's a national show.
No, it's great.
Every guy that I've fought has either been a Bellator, a UFC, or the World Series of Fighting veteran. Every one of them, except for Cody Lightfoot. He's the only one that hasn't. So they get top level guys to come in, and they're flying guys from all over the country, all over the world for that matter, to come fight here in Rhode Island. And we kind of just take it for granted because it's in our backyard. But a lot of this, Access TV is a pretty sweet deal. It's basically the minor leagues to the UFC and to Bellator. We feed guys into those big shows, so it's pretty sweet, man. We're pretty lucky, and when I'm done fighting, for sure, I'm gonna have a great time pushing guys through these leagues and getting them to the bigger shows.
Yeah, it's pretty cool seeing the development of just the MMA scene in Southern New England. Because me and you go back a long time, and the scene. I remember going to seeing fights that weren't even sanctioned, and I know you used to fight back then when they weren't allowed, and they were in hotel room, ballrooms.
The ballrooms. Oh,
they'd be in the old ballrooms.
Those are back in the days where I would just bring my own medicals and show them to the promoter, and he would go, "Oh, okay."
I remember.
I could write a plus and a minus with a crayon, and they wouldn't even say anything.
I remember being a judge while also being a fighter and judging teammates fight. So it is a lot better now. Now we're in Twin River.
100%.
We're in Mohegan Sun. We're doing big things. So it's really good to see how professional it was, the transition in just a very short time too. It wasn't that long ago.
No, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, and think about it too. CES came in 2010, I think, or 11. Mike Campbell fought on the first show. And 4 or 5 years later, they're already on national TV. You know what I mean?
Sure.
They've risen to success faster than any show in New England.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But again, Jimmy Birchfield and Pat Sullivan, those guys do a great job, and they've done it before with the boxing. So they're no stranger, to running big shows and getting them on TV and promoting and stuff like that. So it's pretty sweet, man. We're really lucky.
All right, so we got to get to our fan forum question of the week. For those who don't remember, we do this new thing where we ask fans from all across the world to ask one question for a fighter. This week's question comes from Tony Irwin of West Virginia. He asks, if you never found MMA, what would be consuming all your time besides obviously your family?
Honestly, I'd probably be a hockey coach. I'd probably be coaching high school hockey. When I was playing juniors, I was actually coaching middle school for the high school that I went to.
Okay.
I was after I graduated, I played juniors, but I was really good friends. The guys that coached me in high school really weren't that much older than me, so I was really close with them, and I actually played men's league with them, when I graduated and stuff like that. So I coached the middle school team for probably 3 or 4 years, and once I started fighting, I had to kind of give that up. So if I wasn't fighting and I didn't run into this, I'd probably be coaching high school hockey.
All right, I'm just going to we have a little fun. We're going to get you out of here. I'm just going to go over the CES card. I'm going to just go over the televised card. I just want to hear you. I know you know everybody in the scene.
Let's do it.
I want to hear your predictions on every single fight. I'm just going to do it just for time purposes. We're just going to do the televised card. We got Carlos Calderario. I don't know how to say his last name. Calderario.
Calderario.
Okay, all right.
I know who he is. Yeah.
He's going against Miguel Restrepo. Who you got?
Oh, Carlos. Carlos is a beast. Young kid, tough kid, good wrestler. Good submission game, trains with Mappaset. Carlos will probably win by guillotine in the first round. He's got a nice, sharp guillotine.
All right, next fight, David Garcia versus Cody Norby. Who you got in that fight?
Oh, man, Garcia's a beast, dude.
I was waiting for you to say Cody, and then I was going to tell him I was going to make the prediction of Garcia.
Well, we're going to have to give Cody a little booster seat if he wants to punch this kid in the face.
You beat me.
Listen, I've seen Garcia fight. He actually beat one of my teammates, Rico DeSulo.
Yeah.
And me and Cody watched that fight after my first fight. Right after that fight, we went out and watched that. It's a good fight for Cody. I think Cody's wrestling and grappling is very strong, and it's gotten better. And he's going to mix that up very well with the striking. And I think Cody's definitely going to be able to dominate this fight. Whether he finishes it or not, I don't know. But either way, he dominates.
Okay. Next fight is another guy you train with, Patrick Walsh. He's going against Kevin Haley. Who you got that fight?
Yep, I'm familiar with both of these guys, but I've been training with Pat Walsh for a pretty long time. He is the reason my takedown defense is pretty stellar. The kid is a monster of a wrestler and a monster of a grappler, and he's tough to stop, that kid. I see him taking down Haley and finishing him via Kimura, probably in the first or second round, but it's definitely going to be a Kimura. You watch. Okay,
next fight we got Keith Bell versus Tyler King. Who you got that one?
Oh, this is a great one, and it's a very tough one to call. I fought both guys. I knocked out both guys. Tyler is very tough. He can take a lot of punishment, but he doesn't. Keith Bell hits very hard. Like, he hit me, and I was like, oh boy. And he's a big dude, and he moves very fast. He's got good footwork. It's so tough to call. I can see Keith Bell knocking Tyler out in the first round, but I can also see Tyler wearing him down, and taking him out late or winning a decision. Oh man, I'm gonna go with Keith Bell. I think Keith Bell's gonna catch him with something fancy in the first round, dude.
All right, next fight we got. This is one that I'm really keeping my eye on because it's two really good talents. We got Jordan Espinoza versus Dennis Paiva, who's a guy we've been watching for a long time. Who you got that one?
Yeah, Dennis has been another one who's been a training partner. We trained with him tonight. Dennis is a great lefty. He's definitely on a roll. He's been training really hard, and I just think coming off his last fight, his striking looks so good.
Yeah.
And I just think his confidence is going to be on another level.
Jordan's a good wrestler, though.
He's a state, but so isn't Dennis. Don't forget, Dennis is a Massachusetts state champ wrestler.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? From New Bedford.
Sure.
Dennis's wrestling is very good. As long as Dennis can keep himself composed, to not go out and throw anything crazy, which he's been That's been the biggest thing he's working on.
Yeah.
Is I see Dennis keeping this fight standing, and if Dennis hits this kid, he's going to put him to sleep.
He's got a lot of power for that weight class.
Yes, Dennis has big power. He's very big for the weight class as well. You know, I think Dennis is going to knock him out. It's probably not going to happen right off the bat because Dennis's big thing that he's been working on is being patient.
Okay.
So I'm going to go probably in the second or third round. Dennis is going to put this kid away.
All right. The main event is Matt Bessette for the featherweight title against Kevin Croom. Who you got on that one?
Kevin Croom is obviously he's exciting, and the biggest question about him is he knocked out Lenny Wheeler. Lenny Wheeler, I don't know if you've seen him fight, and he knocked out Matt Bessette, is a monster. I feel like Lenny Wheeler's my size.
Okay.
How that kid has made 45 is beyond me. I couldn't believe it when I saw him at CES when he fought Matt. But you know, I watched the Hillbilly. I can't remember. I don't like Kevin Croom. He's a tough kid, but I just think Matt has a lot more tools. Kevin Croom's it's going to be exciting, but I don't think it's going to go far. If Kevin doesn't catch Matt in the first round, I think Matt, you know, his skills and his experience is going to take over, and Matt will probably finish him later, like, you know, in the fourth round. Whether it's TKO or submission, I don't know, but Matt will finish him.
All right, and let's do your fight. How do you win?
I'm going to win by spinning wheel kick in the first round.
Spinning wheel kick. It's going to be up for our MMA takeover knockout of the year.
Sure, yeah, absolutely. Let's do it.
So all you guys betting at home, I hope you guys took notes and just parlay all those bets for a huge payday. All right.
That's it, yeah.
All right, so our final question is Greg Rebello, have you submitted to the takeover?
Yes, my name is Greg Rebello, and I have been submitted to the takeover.
Greg, we wish you luck. We'll all be rooting for you, and welcome to the MMA Takeover family.
Awesome, man. Thank you guys so much. And
we thank everyone for listening home. That's our interview of the week. Make sure you follow us at themmatatakeover.com. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thank you.